Hey guys. Oh no, I thought I had my water up here. I'm so sorry. How I start the video off like that? Hey guys. So happy Memorial Day. Are we supposed to say that? That should probably be my first question. I don't know if I'm supposed to say happy Memorial Day. So today I figured we could have a nice discussion about Memorial Day and get some facts and get a little history. So while I set up, I'm going to play this video. This is from The Root. I haven't seen it yet. It looks pretty interesting. So I'll start there as we have a community discussion. Please like the video. Happy Memorial Day. If I'm supposed, I just realized, are we supposed to say that? But prayers to you and your loved ones. Thank you for serving, and let's learn a little bit as we go. Okay. All right. So let me share this video. And this is African Americans' contributions to Memorial Day. It's a discussion, but I did link some cool articles in the box and we'll go over it together. Okay, let's go. Thanks for being here, guys, and everyone's welcome.
Day celebrated today has pretty much erased the contributions of African Americans. But why are we surprised? First known as Decoration Day, Memorial Day became a national holiday in 1970.
Hey, Bob, thanks for being here. Thanks for serving as well.
But Memorial Day's traditions actually date back to the days of the Civil War. John Logan, a Union Army general, typically gets credit for founding the holiday. Here's how it really went down. The year was 1865. The Civil War was raging, and Charleston, South Carolina was a hot mess. White people were like, we out. But thousands of Black people, many former slaves, remained. At the time, many Union soldiers were being held prisoner.
That was The Root. I had my first call. And oh, thank you. See, there we go. Bob says, don't say happy Memorial Day. Just say have a great Memorial Day. See, I'm learning. And I learned another thing, Bob, that Veterans Day and Memorial Day, a lot of times they get misunderstood, right? Memorial Day, we'll go over it soon. That's for those we lost in combat, I believe. But we're going to have the discussion and learn together. That's what I love to do. So I don't mean to be disrespectful. I realized that some things I just didn't refresh or maybe never really put much thought into. So let's talk together. And let me bring up Succeeding. She's here. Hey, Succeeding.
Hey, Burgundy, how you doing? Hey, Chad, how are you? Blueberries and blue dudes.
Yes, how are you today? And we have Bob. Remember one time we were on a panel with Bob. He's a older generation Dalton resident. Like his
yes. Okay, which one was Bob? Was Bob in Ohio? Works for the military?
I think Bob. He was the one that was family lived in Illinois. I don't know where you moved to, Bob, but I do know
Bob,
that
are
he
you
was
the
there with
one
Philly Man
that works for the company that does some type of I know both of them that were with us. Remember, one of them did like this high-tech equipment. Both of them, it was high-tech. Because I asked them what they would do.
He said you're correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. Our old dear friend Bob.
Thanks for being here, Bob. And I did thank you for your service. And Bob gave me a lesson quickly about I was like, you know how people say when you pick up the phone, they say Happy Memorial Day. I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to say that. What do we say? And he gave me a greeting is to say, just have a good Memorial Day.
Yeah. This is the first year that I think I really remember anyone saying it to me.
Yeah, it was like,
I mean Happy Memorial Day.
Oh, like, yeah.
This is the first time I heard someone say that, because this is a day, Memorial, Bob, right? Day of mourning. That's why you have the presidents going visiting the cemeteries.
Yeah. And I know I see it a lot on Facebook and things like that, and I said, "Oh wait, I don't know if we should say that." But I did go. So now you're letting me know. Thank you, Bob, in succeeding. And I went to the Dalton Cemetery today,
Okay.
and which is Oakland Memory Lane. But I have family members there, and they had a beautiful presentation. I'm gonna put a picture up for you guys. And then another day I'll go over some of the history of the first soldier that was lost in Dalton in combat. Um,
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, it was interesting. But Oakland Memory Lane, shout out to you for how you really decorated the we call it homegoing. So the resting place of those we lost.
You know what they
Um,
call it? One time, I'm gonna tell you, I had a meeting, insurance meeting years ago, and they
mhm,
told me, okay, you'll see the park. So I'm thinking what most of us are thinking when you think of the park. So I'm
mhm,
just driving. It's like before 7 o'clock in the morning because the meeting started like at 7. Finally, I
mhm.
called them and they told me it was a cemetery, but they call it the park.
Oh, I think that's delicate. I like that. I think it's delicate.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is because I was looking for the park.
So I'm gonna bring Gardis Watts up. Gardis is here.
Hey, Gardis.
Hey, Gardis, you're live.
Hey, ladies, how's it going?
Hi, gentleman.
It's going well. We just learned something. Well, I did. You guys already knew, but a lot of people today, like even when I went to the grocery store, I checked out and they said have a happy Memorial Day, and I was like, I don't think we're supposed to say that. And Bob,
Yes.
who thank you for serving, Bob. He told me Memorial Day for those who we lost, and Veterans Day for those that served.
Mhm.
And instead of saying Happy Memorial Day, possibly say just have a great Memorial Day. You know, I
Yeah.
didn't know. What do you think about that, Guard? It's like, how do you? Is it a greeting from or thank you Memorial Day? What do you say?
Well, I mean, Veterans Day basically is the day you thank veterans,
Right.
Uh-huh.
for their service. But I believe Memorial Day is kind of like a Remembrance Day.
Yes. Hmm.
I think, as I think I said on your previous live about Memorial Day, it's it's actually rooted in Black history because
Mm-hmm.
it was ex-slaves from South Carolina who went to a Confederate. I think it was a Confederate fort, and there were Union soldiers there that they actually dug up the bodies and gave them a proper burial. And then ever since then, which I believe it was April 1st, 1865. No, not April, May 1st, 1865, that uh, there were like tens of thousands of of people who uh, decorated the graves of these Union soldiers, and it's been an ongoing thing. It's kind of like uh, the first celebrations of Juneteenth, which I got some interesting history on that as well. So, um, but yeah, Memorial Day has been very much like I said, it's been rooted with our people, and it's something that is it's supposed to be for veterans who have gone on or died in action, and we're supposed to remember it. So yeah, I'm not sure what the greeting is for
Yeah.
Memorial Day, if there is one.
Yeah, I don't know if it is one. No, and then we have Armed Forces Day, remember?
Yeah, I guess. Armed Forces Day.
Yeah. Now, Bob, right? Do you celebrate Armed Forces Day? Because that I don't know when it was, but it was earlier this month.
I did not see. We're learning. I'm learning. I did not hear. Let me look that up. Armed Forces Day. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah,
Thank
it's the third Saturday in May.
Okay, that is great. I didn't know that.
Now,
So,
what's also interesting with Memorial Day, because there was actually a couple of years later when it was discovered that The black folks in Charleston were celebrating this back in 1865. I believe some years later, the Daughters of the Confederates. You all heard about them, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they tried to debunk that whole narrative of them being the first to celebrate it, because apparently in Jackson there was a white woman named Sue Landon Vaughn who basically reported in her memoirs several years later that they were celebrating Memorial Day in Jackson, Mississippi in April, like almost a month before. But what they found is that the Vaughn's account was not verified by contemporary sources.
Right.
So it was basically plagiarism, or she basically did not tell the complete truth about that. So.
And that's, it could be that, or I'll give it the benefit of doubt and say, like, for instance, oh gosh, why did their name lose me? Oh gosh, you all, I know her name, but I cannot think about it. Well, her story, there was someone years before her, not even quite a year before her, that refused to give their seat up on a bus, that was arrested, that was just expunged. Her record was just expunged.
Oh, I saw that. It was on
yeah, recently. So you see what I mean? So sometimes, like, the thought is not always just one person's thought. You know how, like, you've thought about inventing something and you see it was your thought as well. You just didn't carry that out. And it was just months, like, the difference between the two. Yet all we hear about is Rosa Parks. We don't hear about this person.
Oh yeah, you're talking about Claudette Colvin. That's what you're talking about. Okay, I was like wondering, like,
I could not think of her name, but we don't hear about Claudette Colvin, but we hear about. You see what I mean? So. Same situation, but it was just months apart. So some, both could have had the same great thought.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, Claudette Colvin was the thing was that, and as you can see, she was darker than Rosa. She was a teenage mother. So, the narrative of her probably would not have fit according to the, NAACP at the time, who wanted to parade Rosa Parks because she was a secretary for the NAACP. She's done activist work as well. And, Rosa Parks has had an interesting life. Like, many people just attribute her of, just being arrested in Montgomery. Well, Rosa did a lot more than that. I mean, she was a lifetime activist. Like, the stuff that she did in Detroit is not, it's rarely talked about.
Right. But you also have someone that's a high school student. So how much focus, like, now there's a lot of focus on, things that young people do, but how much focus are you going to have someone that is still in high school versus this adult that's standing up?
Yeah, I mean, of course. But what's so funny is, Alabama, there were a lot of children that was in the movement. Like, we're talking about 15, 14, 17-year-old children that was in the movement. And they had this thing called the Children's March in Alabama, where several children were arrested and jailed.
Right.
In this march. So that's interesting. They didn't want to parade Claudette Colvin out there. But they let a bunch of children, lead some of the movement.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Like, I did catch it. I saw it. I think it was on. We'll probably play that later because I did catch it, and I was so glad she was able to get her record expunged.
Yeah.
At that time.
Correct. And the wonderful thing was the judge her reaction to him, and
Yes.
how he thanked her that he has the opportunity to be a judge because of her.
Yeah. Something. Hey, the sacrifice is made, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna start now. Gardis, do you have an article you would like me to pull up maybe on the Overlooked Black History of Memorial Day or anything special? I have saved.
You know what's so interesting is this actually Memorial Day actually intersects with another event that happened in 1921, and that's the Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
That happened over Memorial Day weekend as well.
Oh,
Right.
I didn't.
Yes, yeah. May 31st of that year was Memorial Day weekend, and it lasted for like about 3 days. So sometimes we have to intertwine these histories, because as we were remembering Memorial Day, remembering the veterans who served and died for this country, thinking about those Black folks in Tulsa who tried to protect their property, and
They lost everything,
and they basically lost everything. Now, what was also said when those freed Blacks in South Carolina were digging up the graves of many of those soldiers, majority of them were Black soldiers.
Yeah.
And the narrative is also, is always that when the Civil War started to turn into the Union's favor is when Lincoln admitted Black soldiers into the army.
Right.
And that's when basically the tide turned. So sometimes I hear people with the false narrative of Lincoln freed the slaves or white Union soldiers freed the slaves. No, Black Union soldiers freed ourselves. So because what was so interesting, this actually ties into the Juneteenth discussion, is that many white Union soldiers didn't want to fight the South to abolish slavery. So that's what made Lincoln kind of change his mind about, maybe we should recruit Black folks. And it was a whole bunch of Black folks who escaped from the South who were in these encampments that they didn't know what to do with. So at that point, they was like, okay, let's put them a uniform, let's get them guns, let's train them how to use it, and let's enlist them into the army. And so that's when basically the tide turned for the Union, when Black soldiers started to come in. So we remember those in that particular situation, but also the Tulsa Massacre, because they didn't sit there and let those white people, just run them over. Unfortunately, the white people owned the police, and they own a paramilitary group, which many feel it's the first American city that was basically air bombed, because I guess the local police there had like these crop dusters, and they were throwing dynamite from the air onto the residents of Greenwood. So that's
Well, do you remember last let's see, 23. Yeah, last year, do you remember the survivor, Viola? Fletcher? She was
Yes.
109, and she released a book, and she was the oldest woman in the world to release a memoir.
Yeah, so Mama Viola Fletcher, because she spoke in front of Congress.
Right.
What was that, about 3 years ago?
Right.
3 years ago, about that whole situation. Because what was so funny, and Berg, this kind of connects to the situation, Oklahoma, but but here's the thing about Mama Viola, because I remember listening to that, and in that speech, because there is a museum that they built called Greenwood Rising. So
just like you all,
yeah, so
Falls, Greenwood Rising.
But here's the thing: the Tulsa riots, the Tulsa massacre, was never talked about. It was never talked about for years, and I think it started to get in publicity like about just 20 years ago. And that thing happened over 100 years ago. Like, I didn't know about it until till like maybe 15 years ago or so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I don't even know if it was 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. So they, I guess they were building this building or this museum in remembrance of the Tulsa the victims of the Tulsa massacre, and it was, I guess it was like a symbolic gesture. But they raised like 30-40 million dollars. And so some of the survivors, which included Mama Viola, was like, y'all made $30 million in my name,
Right.
and we didn't see one dime.
Right. That's why she
That-
wrote
that-
that book, Don't Let Them Bury My Story.
that's another connection, Berg.
Wow. Now, is this the one, Gardis, the Greenwood Rising? Is this the?
Yep,
So,
that's it.
Yep,
Mhm.
that's it. Yep.
interesting. I didn't know it existed.
Yep.
Yep. So they went in
did-
front of Congress, was like, because Mama Viola is the oldest living survivor of
She
the
was 7
massacre.
years old at the time when that occurred.
Yeah, they raised all that money and didn't give them one dime.
Nothing.
Isn't that something on their story? And she's 109 now.
Yep.
110. And her
She
birthday
should be 110 because she was 109
Yeah, back
last
then.
year when she
Mhm.
when she released the book.
Yeah, and May 10th, birthday just passed. May 10th.
And she released the book on May 30th of last year.
Wow, this is very amazing. Thanks for this. I'll be researching this all night. This is interesting. Now, for those that I was talking about this show called Lovecraft Country. They covered this, and I can't believe they covered a lot of things in that show. It was like truth but sci-fi. Remember I told you they had the first pilot, was it Betsy Coleman?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, they had her driving down the street, and they also integrated the Tulsa massacre in this story. It was really good.
I thought they did that
first woman pilot.
I thought they did that in Watchmen.
Oh, it was Watchmen.
Yeah.
I thought it was Lovecraft. Thank you, Watchmen. Why they didn't renew that? That was Regina King. Forgive me, guys. Watchmen. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
I thought that was a great way to do things.
I really enjoyed that series. And what was so funny is, there were people who watched it was like, I didn't realize that was a real event. I was like, yeah, a lot of us didn't a while ago.
Yeah, it was Watchmen. Thank you, Regina. I might have to rewatch that because I was looking forward to the next season. I think it was too much truth in that, and that's why they didn't do another follow-up. It was really good. It was really good. And I went through history books just because of what happened. Okay, thank you, Viola Fletcher. That name is special to me, actually, Viola. Oklahoma. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what else was tying in with the Memorial Day, Gardis, that you could share with us? You have it all history-wise.
I mean, that's the only two that I can that comes off the top of my head right now. Because I mean, we these are memories and events that we have to remember, because they can't go by the wayside, and they have to, because not only do we have to remember them, we have to understand what went wrong and how can we prevent it from happening again.
Right.
I think the problem with history is history is not just understanding dates, places, times, and events. It's about understanding why those things happen. It's about understanding how those things connect to today. That's why I appreciate you, Berg, about the history of Dalton. A lot of those past events connect to today. Why did so many Black people move to Dalton when 35 years ago it was predominantly white? And we have to look at, and I think you touched on it, some of the redlining that was going on, even though that is illegal, but still there were ways around doing that. And why did many of the businesses leave Dalton, because I know we talked about Red Lobster being there. We talked about several big establishments being there, but they're not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have to look into past politicians and how a lot of those past politicians connect to the politicians of today.
Right.
So
Really do. It's interesting to see.
Yeah. You all, I never heard of Dalton until 95.
1995.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So were you in the area, or were you like, well, not in the area, but were you in Chicago or
So I
Illinois?
was in Chicago. I moved to the west suburbs in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So yeah, you were far, because I never heard of Plainfield until like 2 years ago.
Well, see, Plainfield, well, okay, so even being in the west suburbs, well, because we work with so many people that was from, various suburban areas.
Mhm.
But most of us, even at work, well, I knew people that lived in Plainfield, but most of us more so heard of Plainfield because of the bad storm that they had back in the 90s that destroyed the high school and destroyed a lot of homes, but the high school was destroyed. So that's
Oh.
when a lot of people started hearing of Plainfield. And the funny thing is that they said Indians did not build in Plainfield because they called it Tornado Alley. Yet
Mhm.
people started building there, and that was like they do have a lot of storms in that area.
Oh.
And then what they did, you know how these villages, well, I don't, they don't do it like in the south suburbs, but they do
Mhm.
it a lot in the west suburbs. So they'll buy like a property. I think I've talked about this on here. So they'll buy a property that may be more lucrative. I was talking about how, remember, it used to be like one area used to be Aurora, but Naperville purchased it. So now, get more taxes. People like the name. And so they do that. So they did that with Plainfield, where it's the area. It used to be called, um, it's Romeoville. Romeoville purchased this land, and or Plainfield purchased, and it really is Plainfield. But because Plainfield had like a bad, you know what I mean, for people that knew,
Mhm.
it was easier for it to be Romeoville, which is, I think you told me you were right in this area. It's
I
right
was.
off of Route 53 if you get off at the Romeoville exit, actually. The gas station there, it's a Burger King. If you turn that left, it's like those townhomes and those that are over there.
Oh yeah, I think it's interesting because I went that way, and I didn't know it was such a amazing conglomerate of suburbs over there. And yeah, I heard somebody bought another suburb and
Yeah.
combined it. So hopefully that happens to us in Dalton.
But I mean, they do that they've been doing that for like decades. Like I said, the first time I heard of it being done was like in the 80s. So they do that. Like, for instance, you know where the promenade is in Bolingbrook. I'm sure, Gardis, you've taken your lovely wife to the I Pick movie theater. If
Oh
you
yeah,
haven't, you have to, you
yeah, we've
have.
been there before.
Yeah. Okay. So you see what I mean? I told him. So that used to be a cornfield. Like when I first moved there, it used to be a cornfield. But if you go straight, like past the mire, that's now unincorporated Woodridge, which makes no sense because I lived in Woodridge. Woodridge was on the other side. So it makes no sense. However, they purchased that property. And when I moved back from, into town, I asked the guy at the ice skating rink. Okay, guys, ice skating rink where my daughter is taking
And
ice
combined it.
skating.
Right.
Okay, I said, tell me all the gossip. I've been gone for a few years. So
Oh.
he told me about this property and how the mayor, how they took his computer to examine it because he was on the building commission, and they felt like his friends was buying properties over there because they knew that it was going to be a higher income area,
Oh, okay.
higher value for their homes.
Well, maybe Gardis, you could ask DeGraff, is that
Right.
to buy South
Mhm,
Housing to buy Dalton for it.
mhm.
Okay. So we're gonna go over to the forgotten, and thanks for that, succeeding. That was a good idea. We need that. The overlooked Black history of Memorial Day. I'm over on Time Magazine. It's a 5-minute read. And stop me, guys. I'm having. Do you think this is a good one, or should I go to the? It was I think Dusable had one. Should I go there? And thank you, Wyoming gal. I love your YouTube channel, Burgundy. Thank you. Succeeding in Gardens makes it better. Okay, the history. I'll start here, I guess so. And then Gardens could tell us about the history of the so this right here, the photos are from the 1865 photos of graves of Union soldiers buried at the race course turned Confederate prison, where historians believe the earliest Memorial Day ceremony took place.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Nowadays, Memorial Day honors veterans of all wars, but its roots are America's deadliest conflict, the Civil War. Approximately 620,000 soldiers died, about 2/3 from disease. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The work of honoring the dead began right away all over the country, and several American towns claim to be the birthplace of Memorial Day. Researchers have traced the earliest annual commemoration to women who laid flowers on soldiers' graves in the Civil War hospital town of Columbus, Mississippi in 1866. But historians like the Pulitzer Prize winner David Blight have tried to raise awareness to free slaves who decorated soldiers' graves a year earlier to make sure their stories get told too. So it's a book we could read called According to Blight's 2001 book, Race
Mhm.
and Reunion,
Mm-hmm.
The Civil War in American Memory. And I'm going to probably play a video because I feel like I've got a lot of feedback. So I'm going to see if I can play a video instead. I hear myself. I don't know why. Let me see. Is this it? Is this a video? I think this is it. I did not watch this, so I hope this is powerful that we got some knowledge. Chime in, you guys, when you're ready. Chime in when you're ready.
You figured 620,000 soldiers died. That's I mean, look at that number.
It's a lot of soldiers.
That's a lot of soldiers. Now, I'm going to ask a crazy question because, yes, I'm too much. I guess I'm too into movies. Now this is I guess Glory, Gardis. Anything to do with that story, the Glory, like the Denzel Washington movie?
Well, what's weird about it is I've only seen Glory one time.
Okay.
And that was some years ago. But I know it was about the all black regiment from Massachusetts, or the Massachusetts regiment. But I mean, Glory basically only tells, like I said, half the story of the number of black soldiers that was in the Union Army. Going back to the Juneteenth discussion, when Gordon Granger took his battalion into Galveston, Texas, 70% of the soldiers were black.
Yeah. And it was like you weren't free or barely free, but you could serve your country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'll go ahead.
I'm sorry, I muted myself. Go ahead, Gardis. You had something else?
No, I didn't know if you was playing the video or not, but go ahead.
I hope this is the correct video, guys. This is like AV class. I'm just rolling the TV in. Let's.
When Sanu Thadani Israni bought a house in this neighborhood in California's Silicon Valley, she found something disturbing in the fine print of her home deed.
The language that I read basically said the only people allowed to live in this community, in these homes, are white, unless you're a servant.
The subdivision is called Ladera, and the racist covenants were attached to the deeds of all 500 some.
Does this look familiar, you guys? It says the Forgotten Memorial. It says Black Memorial Day. I'm on here. We want to continue to see.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
I'm
Mhm.
watching.
From
Look,
homes
I'm
here.
enjoying.
The rules are no longer enforceable or even legal, but they've been on the books since the neighborhood was laid out 70 years ago. And they help illustrate how so many of America's suburbs ended up segregated.
It hurts. It hurts to be told you're not.
This might be something we need for another day. Because let me see. Let me go back. Because I think it's just like showing. I don't think it. Let's go back. Sorry, guys. AB class. I told you. I did this I did not prepare. Okay, so we'll go back to the one mic history and we'll see how what they had to say. Let me hit play on there. And shout out to One Mic History. I follow them a lot. Let me go over here. You can learn history in like 3 minutes over here. Literally.
Of Memorial Day. Well, today I'm going to tell the story about formerly enslaved people in Charleston and the very first celebration of Memorial Day. You can reach out to me at onemichistory.com in the contact page. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so on my Buy Me Coffee on my Patreon page in the description below. Give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and support the YouTube channel. But without further ado, let's get started. Memorial Day celebrates and commemorates the brave soldiers who lost their lives during all American conflicts, but its roots are based in America's deadliest conflict, the Civil War. Born out of necessity due to the colossal amount of lives lost during the conflict, at least 600 to 800,000 Union and Confederate soldiers perished. To remember their lives, the first National Memorial Day was observed May 30th, 1868. The origins of Memorial Day, though, are hotly contested, with many cities in the United States each claiming to be the birthplace of the first celebration. Previously, the earliest annual commemoration was thought to be organized by women of the Civil War Hospital in Columbus, Mississippi. The ceremony was held in honor of fallen soldiers by laying flowers at their graves in April of 1866. But historians have long sought to shed light on freed African Americans in Charleston, South Carolina, who conducted an even earlier Memorial Day observance. This celebration would occur in 1865 and was dubbed Decoration Day. David Blight, a professor of American history at Yale University, was doing research on the Civil War in 1996 when he was given the opportunity to examine 2 boxes of unsorted material from Union veterans from Harvard's Houghton Library.
I just wanted to pause that. Did you know anything about that, guys? Because I didn't.
No.
I knew about the Civil War, but I didn't know about that.
Well, yeah, that's when we first discovered about Memorial Day being rooted in Black history.
Mm.
I mean, there's probably a lot of things that we haven't uncovered or don't know about that's still out there, to kind of be researched.
Right. Because it's just like what you were starting to play, Burgundy.
Mm-hmm.
Like I learned about that on WBEZ, and there were areas in Illinois. You'll be surprised. There are a lot of states. There were 13 of them that were working on getting those clauses removed.
Wow. It's stuff we don't know. We have to do the research, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the book that was just recently released by John Jacobs. Now, this is interesting because it wasn't a recent publication because John Jacobs is actually the brother of Harriet Jacobs. Y'all remember who Harriet Jacobs is?
Uh-huh.
She wrote the book The Narrative Life of a Slave
Right.
Girl.
Uh-huh.
Yep. So apparently her brother was all the way in Australia, and somebody discovered a manuscript of a book that he was about to write, or I think he completed, and University of Chicago published it, called "The United States Governed by 600,000 Despots," and he was talking about his experience as an abolitionist, and he was a sailor, and he ended up in Australia.
Wow. Yeah, now they would definitely be the ones to publish, something like that.
Yeah, and that was just recent.
Mhm.
Whoa. Okay. Let's go back.
He discovered a handwritten story detailing an 1865 march on a racetrack accompanied by a date referencing an article in the New York Tribune and a file labeled First Decoration Day. The racetrack in question was Washington Racecourse and Jockey Club in Charleston, South Carolina. In the late stages of the Civil War, the Confederate Army repurposed the Washington Racetrack and Jockey Club, a luxurious country club and horse racing track in Charleston, South Carolina, to hold Union prisoners of war. The makeshift prison was located in an open-air field of the racetrack. Sadly, 250 Union captives would perish from disease and exposure while being held at the site, and their bodies were hastily buried in an unmarked mass grave. When Confederate soldiers evacuated Charleston, newly emancipated Black people remained in the badly damaged city. And one of the first things they did was honor fallen Union soldiers. Approximately 10 days leading up to the event, they exhumed a mass grave and reinterred the bodies in a new cemetery along a whitewashed fence that was inscribed with the words, "The Martyrs of the Racecourse," in Black letters. May 1st, 1865.
I think like that's so like noble and amazing. I'm glad that they did that to put those loved ones in a final resting place that was dignified. This is great.
Approximately 10,000 people attended a large-scale memorial gathering to honor the fallen Union soldiers. During this event, 3,000 children from the local Black schools marched around the racetrack holding roses and singing the Union hymn of John Brown's body. Reverends would lead the attendees in prayer, spirituals, and other religious activities during the event. Union officers, missionaries, and Black pastors also frequently delivered speeches to commemorate the fallen soldiers. The people at the memorial gathering sang numerous patriotic songs, including and not limited to "America, We Will Rally the Flag," and the Star Spangled Banner. To close out the day, later in the afternoon, 3 white and Black regiments from the Union Army marched around the graves in a choreographed drill, and this tribute was documented in both the Charleston Daily Courier and the New York Tribune. This Memorial Day observance, organized by freed enslaved people, was at least a year before any other U.S. city and 3 years before the national observance.
The Gardis, what is free enslaved people?
That's a good one. I don't know what.
Oh, okay. I thought I was. I'm not trying. I wasn't trying. I was like, wait, what did that mean? Okay, let's go back.
Yeah.
Making the gathering on that Charleston racetrack the earliest Memorial Day commemoration on record. In the wake of the American Civil War, by 1868, General John A. Logan of the Union Army directed the commemoration of Memorial Day on September 30th, urging Americans to honor the deceased combatants by decorating their graves with flowers. And by 1889, Memorial Day was a national holiday. White Charlestonians quickly forgot about the 1865 gathering at the racetrack by formerly enslaved people. Evidence of this event wouldn't appear again until 1916 correspondence between the United Daughters of the Confederacy chapter in New Orleans and their counterpart in Charleston, in which it was asked about a big parade of freed slaves on a horse track at the very end of the war. The Charleston office will respond that I regret that I am unable to gather any official information to answer this. Subsequently, in the late 1880s, the horse track and country club was torn down, and the remains of the Union soldiers were relocated to a more prestigious grave site in
I was just pausing. Did anyone have something to say?
No, that was
No, I thought that was probably okay. It wasn't that thing.
Beaufort National Cemetery. In doing so, the story of the first Memorial Day was almost entirely forgotten, but not by the African Americans in Charleston, South Carolina. In a speech at the Smithsonian National Museum of American History, David Blight discussed that he was doing a story about Memorial Day's origin. After his talk, an older Black woman would approach him. She would state, "You mean the story is true? I grew up in Charleston. My granddaddy used to tell stories of a parade at an old racetrack, but we never knew whether to believe him or not. You mean that's true?" MOVE was founded by John Africa in 1972 to introduce a communal organization.
Wait, does this have anything to do with Memorial?
You know what?
Memorial?
You know what? I think that did happen on Memorial Day weekend.
Wow.
Okay. That would be crazy if that did. Hold up.
This is interesting. All these different things happening on Memorial Day.
Yeah, that actually happened earlier in May 13th, which is not too far from Memorial Day, but that will be interesting. The only two times an American city was actually bombed, in Tulsa and actually Philadelphia, because they actually dropped dynamite on that compound as well.
Whoa. Okay, let's see.
Organization that was based on anno-primitivism philosophy. These philosophies promoted a return to a non-civilized way of life through rejecting industrialization, large-scale organization, and technology. Completing with this ideology was the largely African-American group adoption of the revolutionary agenda akin to that of the Black Panthers, while also advocating for animal rights. The organization's guidelines were recorded by Donald Glassy, a social worker at the University of Pittsburgh, and implemented into the communal group. As a result, MOVE members wore their hair in dreadlocks and advocated for a return to a hunter-gatherer society, which expressed opposition to science, medicine, and technology. In 1977, Philadelphia PD obtained a court order requiring the eviction of John Africa and his followers from the property which they occupied in West Philadelphia. MOVE members offered to surrender their weapons to Philadelphia PD if members of their group who had been held in city jails were set free. But this offer was not accepted. In response, almost a year later, in August 8th of 1978, the Philadelphia PD held a standoff with the organization in which Officer James J. Ramp was killed and 16 others were injured. MOVE representatives denied responsibility for the death, claiming that Ramp had been facing the house and was killed by the fire of his fellow officers. But prosecutors alleged that MOVE members had fired the fatal shot and charged Debbie Sims Africa and 8 other MOVE members with collective responsibility for his death. In 1981, MOVE relocated to a row house at 6221 Ostrich Avenue in the Cobbs Creek area of West Philadelphia, resulting in numerous complaints from neighbors. In 1985, police issued arrest warrants for 4 MOVE occupants, accusing them of parole violations, contempt in court, illegal possession of firearms, and making terroristic threats. In response, May 13, 1985, over 500 police officers with the assistance of the city manager, Leo Brooks, attempted to clear the building and execute those warrants.
I didn't know this happened. I did not recall this happening. I'm sitting here watching it like, wow, like I really got to brush up on history. I did not know this happened. Pearls Pink said that also happened in Pearl Harbor.
Oh,
in Hawaii.
I forgot about Pearl Harbor. Yep.
Wow. Thanks for that, Pearl Pink.
After several warnings, the police attempted to move members out of the house by shutting off the water and the electricity. When that didn't work, Commissioner Gore J. Samber ordered that the compound be bombed. Lieutenant Frank Powell dropped 2 1.5-pound bombs made of a dynamite substitute called Tobarex, combined with 2 pounds of FBI supplied C4 on the roof of the house. This set the house on fire, which spread to the neighboring houses. 62 houses were destroyed, leaving 250 people without homes. Only 2 MOVE members survived. Birdie Africa and Ramona Africa managed to escape the house. The fire unalived over 11 people in the house. 6 adults and 5 children.
Oh.
The mayor, W. Wilson Goody, commissioned the Philadelphia Special Investigation Commission to investigate the bombing of the MOVE organization. After the commission's report that was released in March 1986, Mayor Goody gave a public apology in which no one from the city was criminally charged with the attack. Ramona Africa, the only surviving adult MOVE member, was charged and convicted of the charges of the riot and conspiracy and served 7 years in prison. Additionally, 3 lawsuits were filed against the city of Philadelphia, with the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit ruling in 1995 that the plaintiffs did not have the Fourth Amendment claim against the city, and the city did not have qualified immunity from liability. In 2005, a jury awarded a $12 million verdict against the city of Philadelphia. In 2020, the city of Philadelphia City Council passed a resolution that formally apologized for the MOVE bombing and established an annual day of observation, reflection, and commitment on May 13th. Thank you. I'm your host, Country Boy. This has been One Mic History. And if you have questions,
I like One Mic History. If they do history in 10 minutes, check them out. But that was interesting because I didn't even realize Regina says there's so much that was so much we're never told. Isn't it?
Have you all ever watched there's a YouTuber I follow, and she does like the life of like an enslaved, like how the day-to-day was, how they dressed, preparing a meal.
Oh no.
No. What's the name of the channel that
Let's see. Her channel is called Not Your Mama's History.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
And I mean, she's gone to like she just does all kinds of stuff. Like she puts on the attire, like what it's like from start to finish. Like, oh my goodness, I like I couldn't have lasted. Like I would still be getting dressed. All those layers, And then she did like what it was like to be a free black. She called it a free black pepper pot woman in Philadelphia. And so she's preparing this meal for this, the family, and she has to have all this stuff done like before they get home. So she just reenacted like what it was like doing hair, being a maid, just all different aspects.
Oh wow, that's interesting. It's called Not Your
Mama's History, and it's all together. Like Not Your Mama's with an S at the end.
She's stronger than me. I don't know if I could reenact any.
Oh, she does like, I mean, she does like the food. She does like historical things. She like will unpack like vintage dresses. So you'll like that.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna take a look. Not Your Mama's History.
Mm-hmm.
And before we leave, let's talk about some of the things that I thought, because I was taught one thing, and this is like the Emancipation Proclamation that was signed. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, right? So we're all good. I want to read a little bit about it. And Gardis, if you could tell us a little bit about like maybe the true history of what you uncovered. It said on January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. All persons held as slaves within any states in rebellion against the United States, it's declared shall be thenceforward and forever free. The more than 1 million enslaved people in the loyal border states and in the Union-occupied parts of Louisiana and Virginia were not affected by this proclamation. It also declared that such persons, African American of suitable condition, will be received into the armed service of the United States. For the first time, Black soldiers could fight for the U.S. Army. Were they limited to just the Army? Were the other branches open, or was it just the Army?
Well, I mean, there was only the Army.
Yeah, I was gonna say they didn't have others back then.
They didn't have others. I mean, they had a Navy, but it wasn't necessarily called was it called the Navy? I think it was. I think the Navy was formed at that time. But yeah, it was basically just the Army and the Navy. This was when Lincoln decided that he needed Black troops to win this war. But what was interesting was it didn't cover the bordering states like Missouri, Kentucky, Maryland, and Delaware. But the Emancipation Proclamation was kind of like, okay, Lincoln is declaring, freedom for the enslaved Africans in the slave states. But that's just like, that's just like Tiffany going to Chicago and telling Brandon Johnson, you gotta let these prisoners in.
Right. Yeah, that's why it was like 4 million, but they were not actually free.
Yeah, well, like I said, the thing, and one of my favorite historians, Dr. Gerald Horne. If you guys ever read any of his books, I mean, this dude has written 40 books, and I've only got like about 10 of them, but he says, when he talks about the Emancipation Proclamation, he basically, gives the analogy I kind of give a little differently, where somebody in another country is telling another country, you got to free your prisoners. And that's not going to work, because slavery, just as it's implemented by the lash and the gun, you can only emancipate slaves through the lash and the gun. This is why, going back to the Juneteenth conversation, many people make this assumption that the slaves in Texas, which was the last stronghold of the Confederates, it was the last state to be conquered. They assumed that the slaves during that time didn't know that the Emancipation Proclamation was announced, but many did say that, hey, they knew about it, but Union troops haven't gotten there yet. Because what they're gonna do? They're gonna walk off the plantation, and then the white people kill them,
which is crazy to me still. Nothing too much makes that make sense to me. 49 states, one doesn't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's kind of impossible when you think about. They didn't know. Yes, they knew.
Nothing, no matter how they say it each year, it still doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't. It just doesn't. 49 states. One state doesn't know. Is that really something we should be celebrating? One state didn't know.
Well, like I said, I think sometimes the narrative kind of gets mixed up, and I remember talking to, Juneteenth, which actually has been celebrated in Texas and in the South,
right?
For
they've
a
been
long
doing
time,
it for a long time,
it's been a national holiday for how many years? Only 3 years.
You're right.
Okay, so 3 years, but we just started celebrating it
that's right.
Yeah, just like recently, like
that's kind of how we are. Oh, they're doing that. Oh, let's start doing it, but we don't necessarily know the meaning of what we're doing it. But it just sounds like we're more fad. You know what I mean?
Oh, of course. And I remember when I first heard about it some years ago. There was a friend of mine whose birthday was on June 19th, and she's very, she's a very conscious person, and she basically kind of educated us on Juneteenth. So that's when I first discovered about it. But in the recent years, you have all these Juneteenth events. Homewood in the Southland, I think, has the biggest Juneteenth event around here. Okay. South Holland is we're going to have our first Juneteenth event.
Oh, you stop it.
Wow.
Yeah. Your bear is cutting up.
Yeah. I wonder if she's still there, I wonder if Tiffany's going to have a Juneteenth event.
You say if she's still there.
Yeah, if she's still there.
You dare to speak those words. You dare to speak a curse onto the village of Dalton.
I'm just wondering.
On Memorial Day, on this sacred day.
And I have South Holland's Juneteenth, June 18th at 2 at South Holland Library. Is that the one or is it the city having it, right?
Yeah, the city's having it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And South Suburban too. Oh wow.
Y'all are counting.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it's the first time they're having it in the South Highlands. So
Now, which with Mr. Wells being in town, I would expect nothing less.
Mm.
With,
That's very
with
well.
his historical, his history, you know who I'm speaking of,
He's an
Gardis, right?
educator.
Terry Wells.
Yes.
Who is? Remind me.
He's the husband. The mayor of Phoenix.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
the longest. Okay, what did I say, Burgundy? The longest serving African American mayor in Illinois.
Yes. So he
Okay.
should definitely have a Phoenix Juneteenth parade as well.
Well, he's on the board of South Suburban. Remember, he took Frank Zuccarelli's place.
Oh, okay. I did not know he took Frank's place. Okay. Okay.
Well, I remember this was, I think it was 2001, 2021 or 22. There is a caravan that drives around in the city. They drive around parts of the south side and the west side. And I remember participating in those caravans 2 years in a row. And, we kind of like, drive around the city waving the Juneteenth flag and the red, black, and green flag and, all type of flags. And it was pretty well received. Like a lot of people, saw this because this was, like I said, Juneteenth became a holiday. So, they figured like, let's celebrate it.
Yeah.
So I remember somebody was talking about, we got all these celebrations. Does anybody know what we celebrate?
Right, exactly.
Does anybody? Because I mean, there were all these questions about, why are we celebrating, this white man coming to Texas and freeing, slaves and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I think we need to clear the narrative on why we are celebrating this. And it's the same narrative about, like I said, the Civil War. Lincoln did not free the slaves. We freed ourselves.
Yeah.
We joined the Union Army and we beat the Confederates. If it wasn't for the black soldiers, we would not have won that war.
He didn't think that the language existed for them to have the power either to free the slaves.
Yeah, and it was
he felt it was wrong. He was vocal about his thought of that, but he didn't feel they had the power, kind of like the example you gave.
Yeah, and it was Frederick Douglass and a guy named Martin Delany, who was actually one of the first officers off the Union, first black Union officers in the Union Army, who tried to convince Lincoln, you need to recruit black folks into the army. And sure enough, he knew that he wasn't winning that war until the black folks started getting involved.
Yeah. Like, because remember, even once they were free, a lot of them stayed because they were like, well, where do we go?
Yeah.
And they became sharecroppers because I had never heard of sharecroppers. So my in-laws.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
They were telling me they lived on a plantation. And I remember saying, I was like, Dad, you all were slaves? Because they were like, we lived on a plantation. I never heard of anyone living. You know what I mean? And he had to break it down to me. He was like, no, it was a plantation, but we, it used to be a plantation for slaves, but we were not. We were sharecroppers.
Yeah, and there's a tie to reparations in the Juneteenth story as well. I'll save that for Juneteenth though, because I don't have my notes in front of me.
We have to talk about it because I think that's so important. I remember someone said we were walking like in Walmart and my aunt was there. She's like, oh, they better not. They had all this like ice cream. over June. She was like, oh, they better not. They better not.
They've already compromised and commodified Juneteenth. So
oh yeah, because I mean, Old Navy started selling stuff like 3 years ago.
Oh, it's interesting to see. And I wanted to have more of these history talks because I learned today, and even about the simple thing about Memorial Day. I went to Veterans Park. I saw what they did over there, and someone asked if we had it in Dalton. Did we have the Tiffany Leo wreath in Dalton Veterans Park? We don't have a Dalton one, but it's one in South Holland. And I would think as a supervisor, she might have laid a wreath there, but I didn't see a video yet. So I'll let you know, because if she did, she would have put a video.
Oh, it would have been a video.
It would have been a video. But our Memorial Day celebration will be next week in Dalton, per the mayor.
You said Memorial Day celebration will be next week?
Yeah, it was supposed to be yesterday, but I think the rain. So she's saying Memorial Day barbecue, that whole celebration will be next Saturday.
But it only
Yeah, 'cause
rained for 10 minutes.
It rained
It rained
yesterday.
a lot.
Did it rain a lot there?
It was heavy rain. Yeah.
Yeah, it was heavy rain, but yeah, it's you know, it's interesting doing these histories, because also
It was like
Juneteenth,
Florida, y'all.
but
It was like Florida. I was in Homewood. I was sitting in the car because it was hailing.
Oh yeah,
And
it was.
I left back out 40 minutes later. I took my umbrella in, and because I had went to the Home Depot before that to get some plants, and then I went inside of Kohl's, left out 40 minutes later, and I didn't need the umbrella. But it was coming down. It was like a Florida rain where it comes down.
It was.
Y'all got spoiled. And then it was fine. It was just like it didn't even happen.
Oh, not over in Dalton, it wasn't.
Oh, see, that's you
Yeah.
know why it's all that hail going on.
It was HAL.
Right. All that hail
it was
going on.
hail week.
Yeah, hail. I forgot the
It was
I.
hailing over there by you too, Gardis. Did y'all have hail?
I'm
I
sorry.
don't know. I don't think we did. I didn't hear a lot of banging. I didn't
No,
hear a lot
I
of
know
banging.
y'all didn't have no hail.
You know, I normally hear the banging on the window.
Nope,
and
no
so it's
hail
hot,
to y'all.
but yeah.
South Holland always has rainbows. So
Yeah.
Pearl Pink say Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation also prevented the slave owners to have Europeans coming over and fight with them. If it wasn't for Lincoln, there would have had more people in the America who believed in slavery. I thought it was called. Oh, she's talking about Dalton.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's the wrong. Yeah, Dalton, Dolton. I don't know where that's at. Pearls Pink.
Wait, go back
Yeah.
to that Pearls Pink. What did
Oh,
I was reading too slow. Veterans Park. Oh, you know what? Pearls Pink, I know they said an old map spelled it the incorrect way. It spelled it Dalton instead of the way it's spelled.
Regina sent us some more history for another day, so I think we're gonna have to do a part 2, because Regina sent she sent 2 videos. One was about Regina. Let me do this video really quick. If you guys got 10 minutes, Regina, I forgot. Thank you for the reminder. Gardis, here's some history that did you know about the 668, when the first Black women soldiers served in World War.
It didn't Tyler Perry do a movie on that or something?
I don't know.
I didn't know that.
Hold up.
Now,
I think he did.
Oh, that would be interesting if he did. Okay, we're gonna pull it up. And thanks for this, Regina. I watched and I was like, ooh, let's watch it together, guys.
Hello and welcome back. In this original Black Excellence presentation, we will highlight the 688, the incredible Black women soldiers who served in World War II.
Welcome to blackexcellence.com, the site where we share Black excellence, opulence, and affluence. Our mission is to inspire you as we enlighten you.
The 6,888th Central Postal Directory Battalion was a unique U.S. Army unit, and it had the distinction of being the only all African American, all female unit sent overseas during World War II. After their success in England, the 6,888 moved to France, where they continued their work until the last members of the unit returned to the United States in February 1946. And while the work was taxing,
Regina, thank you again. Never heard of this. Never heard of this. Thank you. They're so beautiful too.
and racism was overwhelming. As an all Black female battalion, they understood the significance of their presence and displayed exemplary character under pressure. In this original Black Excellence presentation, we present to you the 6,888. So without further ado, let's get started. The U.S. military was receiving growing pressure from politicians and African American organizations to include Black women in what was called the Women's Army Corps, allowing them to serve overseas. The U.S. forces, bending to this public pressure, then made plans to deploy a large unit of Black women into service, but they couldn't quite determine when or what would be their purpose. And it wouldn't be until 1944 that the concept would be seriously floated again. More than a year after the Women's Army Corps was formed and officially absorbed by the active duty army, the Germans had begun a concentrated counteroffensive on the Western Front in Europe. Known as the Battle of the Bulge, the fighting raged for 5 weeks and took a heavy toll on American forces. Some 19,000 GIs were killed, and many tens of thousands were wounded, captured, or missing in action. Surrounded by death, soldiers in the trenches were desperate to receive word, letters, and packages from loved ones back home, while at the same time, the chaos of the battle strained the Army's ability to deliver it. The War Department seized the opportunity to kill two birds with one stone, get the soldiers their mail, and grant Black women fuller participation in the war. So the 6,888th Central Postal Directory Battalion was formed, and they would be affectionately nicknamed the 6,888. Major Charity Adams commanded the battalion. She joined the predecessor to the Women's Army Corps.
I literally forgot the year she said this was. Regina, do you know? This is awesome. I didn't, so they're in Germany. I did not know this happened, so I'm kind of shocked. So this is great.
Now
And
Biden. Now they were awarded. There's 5, 6 of them that were survivors.
mhm.
Do you remember that? And Biden gave them the Golden Medal Award.
I did not know. We're gonna have to look at that. That is awesome. This is beautiful. Memorial Day history, guys. Black history. And these are when the first Black women soldiers served in World War II.
Now, who sent that?
Regina.
Now, Regina, I have a question. Is this where that one woman officer was? She was the first Black woman officer, where she was an officer, but they refused to let her ride on the dining car. Did she serve? Is that where she came from?
That sound like what Harriet Tubman went through.
No, this was an officer. Yeah, Harriet Tubman and a whole lot of people probably went through that.
Well, you know, and I don't know if you know this, Burgundy, but Harriet Tubman was kicked off a train.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to give
she
her.
went through a lot.
Yes, they didn't want to give her, her veterans benefits, even though she was a veteran of the Civil War.
Right.
She didn't get them until she was like almost 90.
Wow.
And not to mention all the health issues that she had that people never talked about.
Yeah, I mean this woman led the Combahee River Raid.
Yeah.
And Regina Harden says, "Yes, ma'am, you're correct."
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay, I did not know that about Harriet Tubman either. Let's continue.
The Women's Army Auxiliary Corps in 1942 and became the first African American woman to receive an Army commission. In the summer of 1944, Adams and other Black servicewomen at Fort Des Moines had received orders to start training. At the training center, Adams oversaw 4 companies whose preparation was very extensive and intense. This included gas mask drills, obstacle courses, classroom training, clothes packing exercises, physical examinations, and close order drill. The women performed well despite the ever present specter of racism and felt that they were prepared to serve the country in any way possible. By December 1944, the women were fully trained and going home to visit with family as they awaited their orders, hoping that they would have the opportunity to prove their value and patriotism. It was at this time that Major Adams received orders from England to prepare her troops to sail overseas to join the United States Army operations in Europe for World War II. On February 14th, the 688 arrived at their new home at the King Edward School near downtown Birmingham, England. They were divided up into 4 postal directory companies, and duties were divided up accordingly. Work conditions were less than ideal, and the women were initially overwhelmed and discouraged. The warehouses were damp, without heat, and poorly lit since all of the windows were blacked out for security. To battle the cold, some women resorted to wearing ski pants, field jackets, fatigues, or anything else to keep warm. They soon discovered that the warehouses were crammed from floor to ceiling with mail and packages that had not been delivered for at least 2 years. Rats and rodents had overrun the warehouses and had eaten their way into the care packages sent by family members for frontline soldiers. But the Black servicewomen would not be dismayed for long. They went to work. They started organizing a system that would break the bottleneck of undelivered mail. The initial shock of the workload eventually gave way to collective determination. Before long, the 6888 was operating the fastest and most reliable mail directory in the European theater. They adopted the motto, "No mail, low morale," which
Triumphant, right? That was great. I was wondering how they
Yes.
do it. 2 years worth of mail. People wondering if they was that the mail outgoing and ingoing. So people were wondering how their loved ones were the whole time.
You
For
know
2
what?
years.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
You know what? I remember running across them in a book that I had got a couple of years ago called Half American, and
Mm-hmm.
it's the story of African Americans fighting World War II at home and abroad. It's by Matthew Delmont, Delmont, and he talks about Black soldiers in World War II and also coming home from World War II
Right.
as well, because many of the soldiers faced a lot of racism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They faced a lot.
And what was so interesting, because the thing is that this book doesn't have much on the 6888,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it has like small paragraphs here, but I wanted to read this one paragraph here about the 6888. It says, in unheated warehouses with windows blacked out to prevent lighting showing during nighttime air raids, the women worked in shifts around the clock. This is this is where they was doing their mail stuff. And it says, adopting the moral, no mail, low morale. They processed an average of 65,000 pieces of mail per shift and developed systems to get letters to their intended recipients. This was no simple task, with units moving consistently and thousands of soldiers having common names like Robert Smith. When the Red Cross suggested that the 688 should stay, the 6888 should stay in a segregated hotel when they were on leave in London to live there mingling with white soldiers and civilians, servicewomen protested until they were finally placed in integrated hotels. Quote, what we had was a large group of adult Negro women who had been victimized in one way or another by racial bias, end quote, said Major Charity Adams, who led the 6888th, and this was one opportunity for us to stand together for a common cause.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
Okay, that's her. That's her, Charity.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, wow. Okay, let's continue.
Echoed the commitment of these servicewomen to do their best and go above to ensure the soldiers received the desperately needed warm welcome and packages from their loved ones. The 6888 worked diligently around the clock, 7 days a week, in rotating 8-hour shifts. Each shift sorted and processed approximately 65,000 pieces of mail bound for troops scattered across the entire European continent. The servicewomen of the 6,888th Battalion set up their own Army postal office system and tweaked the process to perfection. Carts were incorporated to organize and pitch mail. Once the carts were full, the mail would be delivered to the APOs for further distribution. Some of the letters and packages had only partial addresses. Others were often labeled without key identifying information, making it exceedingly difficult to locate the intended recipients. One of the biggest challenges was the fact that some packages were intended for different individuals who had the same name. Who would imagine that there would be 7,500 Robert Smiths serving in World War II? Nonetheless, the unit created and maintained a system of roughly 7 million special locator cards to track service members and use serial numbers to distinguish the soldiers who had the same name. When a piece of mail was only partially addressed, they researched to try to find the soldier it was meant for. The 6888 also repackaged damaged goods and ensured that they were sent out expeditiously to the proper soldiers as well. Army leadership estimated that it would take at least 6 months and closer to a year to get the mail backlog taken care of. The 6888 completed it in only 3. The 6888 was a self sufficient unit. The Army wasn't yet integrated for men, let alone women. They had their own medics, dining hall, motor pools, supply rooms, and support services. The 6,888th Battalion even had its own chapel, public affairs officer, newsletter, and military police who were not armed but were trained in jujitsu. It hosted sports teams and even put on dances at army hospitals around England. In fact, all the positions of an army battalion, including communications, record keeping, and recreation, were all staffed by black women. As with any minority unit in a segregated army, the 6,888th experienced its share of sexism and racism. But with Major Adams in charge, they had no tolerance for racial discrimination and segregation. Adams often stood up for her battalion. She clashed occasionally with generals and superiors who sought to impose segregation on her unit, or those who questioned and criticized the presence of black women in the military. She once clashed with the Red Cross after it prepared a segregated hotel specially for 6888 members on leave in London. Apparently worried about black servicewomen socializing with white soldiers and white civilians in the city, the organization suggested to Major Adams that, quote unquote, colored girls would be happier if they had a hotel all to themselves. At the encouragement of Adams, nobody from the unit ever stayed there. Instead, she coordinated with black troops stationed in London to ensure her soldiers stayed only in integrated hotels.
Wow.
The outcome was a small but profound victory for Major Adams. When some African American male soldiers thought the women came to Europe to provide them companionship, the ladies quickly set them straight. When the Red Cross opened a club for black women only, Major Adams asked her soldiers to show solidarity and resist entering the club. Several members of the unit's basketball team were invited to play on an Army All-Star team. But when the Army realized the players were black, the invitation was rescinded. The battalion's team responded by going on to win the European Theater Operations Basketball Championship of 1945. A visiting general, not in her chain of command, wanted to see her soldiers march. It seemed like every weekend her troops were marching for one general or another. On this one occasion, when the general arrived, there were only 300 of Adams' women ready for inspection. The general wanted to know where the rest of the women were. Major Adams explained that 1/3 were on duty and the other third were resting. The general did not find that answer satisfactory. I tell you what I'm going to do, Major Adams. I'm going to send a white first lieutenant down here to show you how to run things.
Wow. I was wondering what was going to happen. Major Adams. Oh, I
Thank
was
you
wondering,
so much, Regina.
yeah, this is very good. I was wondering how
Mhm.
to respond to that. Um, one third they wanted them to march all the time. One third was in lineup, one third were resting, and one third was working, and that still wasn't satisfactory.
Wow.
So I don't know if he wanted them to work around the clock. It seemed like, right?
They probably, when they saw all that mail, they probably
This is. I'm glad she stood up for her. I would.
for
I,
her, yeah, her,
yeah,
her
I want to say battalion, but I know
battalion. Is it what is that?
it's
What they call it?
one
Battalion.
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 Oh,
Okay.
okay. We were close.
Yeah, battalion.
Thank you, Gardis. Okay,
Gardis, we
Adams
need
was
you to
well
keep us on
aware
that.
that her
yeah.
officers and soldiers in formation had heard the exchange. In defense of her troops and to maintain the respect necessary to effectively lead them, Major Adams quickly retorted, "Over my dead body, sir." In May 1945, following Germany's surrender and the war effectively ending, the 6888 was sent to Rouen, France, where they were charged to clear another postal logjam while non combat military operations continued in the aftermath of the war. The women stepped onto the docks to discover mountains of rubble that used to be a port town. The greeting in France on that 20th day of May was much better as male African American soldiers were on hand to greet, welcome, and assist their fellow lady soldiers. Small unions united the women and men, some who were family and friends, and others simply bonded by the common cause to join the military and defend their country. In France, the sights and surroundings may have changed, but the work was the same. The 6888 was no stranger to the sight of mail backed up for 2 to 3 years, stacked chest high. Again, the battalion was ordered to deliver the mail in 6 months. Again, they did it in 3. After 5 months in Rouen, the battalion transferred to Paris. The women were housed in 2 lavish hotels, and for the first time in their military service, and for some the first time ever, the women were treated to maid service and meals prepared by the hotel's cooks. While living conditions improved, their work became more difficult as more and more servicewomen transferred home. In November 1945, only 558 women out of the original 850 remained with the battalion. On February 27, 1946, the 6,888th boarded the Claymont Victory for its return to the United States. The battalion was disbanded on March 9, 1946, at Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. The 6888 performed its job honorably and performed its job extremely well. Despite the enormous sacrifices made by black soldiers overseas, the military wasn't officially desegregated until 1948. It would take another 2 decades for the country as a whole to follow suit. 75 years later, and after most of them have passed away, the 6888 have started to receive formal recognition for its contributions during World War II. In 2016, the U.S. Army Women's Foundation honored the battalion by introducing it into the Foundation's Hall of Fame. In 2018, a monument was dedicated in their honor at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. On February 20th, 2019, the Secretary of the Army awarded them with the Meritorious Unit Commendation for meritorious service. On April 4th, 2019, the 6888 documentary premiered at the Women in Military Service to America and screened throughout the United States, earning several Best Documentary Feature awards. For the women of the 6,888th Central Postal Directory Battalion, World War II was truly a war of liberation. They served their country in trying conditions, accomplished their mission, and showed what African American women could do if given the chance. In 2021, the U.S. Senate unanimously passed legislation to award the Congressional Gold Medal, the nation's highest civilian award, to the members of the Women's Army Corps who were assigned to the 6,688th Central Postal Directory Battalion, the 6888, during World War II. As for Major Charity Adams, she left military service in 1946 as a lieutenant colonel, the the highest ranking Black female in the U.S. Army at that time. She would go on to a distinguished career as an educator and administrator. She was selected for the Ohio Women's Hall of Fame and the Smithsonian Institution 100 Most Important Black Women in History, among other honors and awards. Adams received honorary doctorates from Wilberforce University and the University of Dayton. She passed away on January 13, 2002. We salute Major Adams and her troops of the 688. We honor you for your valor, your contributions, and your spirit to overcome any challenge placed before you.
We appreciate the fact that you stayed with us until the end.
Oh wow, that was amazing. The 688, when the first Black women soldiers served in World War II, and that's from Black Excellist. Thank you for sharing with us that, Regina. And
Yes.
Succeeding gave us she gave us an article, 688 women to receive Congressional Gold Medal. And what year was this?
2022.
Yeah, it was like recently.
2022. This is interesting. Thank you so much. 2022. On March 14th, President Biden signed the 688 Congressional Gold Medal Act of 2021 into public law 117-97. The legislation awards the Congressional Gold Medal to the 855 members of the Women's Army Corps who were assigned to the 6,888th Central Postal Directory Battalion, the 688 during World War II. Wow, I'm glad they got their flowers. That's amazing.
You know, I was when I was listening to the documentary, I couldn't help myself when they were talking about the commingling of the European white man, and I'm thinking to myself, Major General Adams is like, don't be going there messing with them white men over in London.
That that's what they thought that, right? They didn't know what kind of integration was going to go. And look,
correct. And that's why they're so open there. They're very open to race.
And look how General Adams, right? How she stood up. She stood up for them, like, no, we want this. We working hard. We're doing beyond what we came to do. We fixed everything. We need you guys to meet us halfway, if not all the way. I like that. I like that she stood up for her.
Yes.
I keep saying battalion. Say it one more time, Gardis.
Battalion.
Battalion. Yeah, because I want to say battalion too.
I do too, battalion. And weird part, my son is a veteran, so I don't know why I can't.
I don't know why. I just want to say battalion.
Yeah. Well, you guys, this was fascinating for Memorial Day. Thank you, Succeeding. Thank you, Gardis. You have anything to say to bring to this history of our contributions as African Americans for Memorial Day?
Well, thank you for having me. And there's, like I said, there's a couple of more that I would like to present, like Juneteenth, and also too, look up Black August.
Black August is on our. Let's put Black August.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go through it now, but I remember I did a presentation on Black August, so
it's on our list for like I have a Succeeding and a Garden. Our topics. It's so many things that we have to talk about. So I appreciate it. And Regina sent some cool things. She sent one thing that maybe you know about as well, Succeeding and Garden. The cotton picking truth on YouTube. We're gonna go over that. And so many things. We'll talk about the YouTube channel you told us about too. So we'll get back into it. I think this history lesson, maybe we could pick a time like once or twice a month and do it. Like go back into Black history.
Okay. Now you gonna make sure you tell her the rules of Black August?
Huh?
You gonna make sure you tell her the ruls? The fasting rules?
Oh yeah, the 7 what is it, like the five principles of Black August? Something like that. Yeah. I got it in my notes, so I can definitely go over that.
And you guys just, Black August, so I didn't know as well, is a month-long celebration. I didn't know that.
Well, it's not so much a celebration, but more of a commemoration.
Yes.
Commemoration, see?
Commemoration of
Black August commemoration, annual commemoration.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. We're gonna go over that. I think that's important. I didn't know about Black August. When did they start that?
It started decades ago, but I think a lot of people have been kind of celebrating it more recently. So it's becoming like Juneteenth without the commodification and the selling, because I don't think when people look at the history of Black August and why it came about, not too many people are going to jump on the bandwagon for that.
because the list just kept, and each day is like you said, something different, and it's focusing on various events that took place, and it's not just events that took place in the United States.
Yeah, but they also made connections of August being a month of resistance and in our history. So not just the movement that created Black August, which was actually formed out of a bunch of Black Panthers, which the prison system created this. So if you want to start with George Jackson. He was kind of like the father of Black August.
Okay, I'm adding it to our list because we have a lot to cotton picking. True, I'm putting it all down so we don't forget it. So when we get back online, we have all this, because I did not know about Black August. So it's important that.
And a lot of people didn't know about Black August, including myself. I really didn't know about it till like about 5 years ago.
We don't know until we know. You know what I mean? Until someone we may see something, we may hear something. See, I learned a lot from WBEZ. Like, I was driving from downtown one day and I heard and they were dissecting the meaning of the song Strange Fruit.
Oh.
And they talked about how, and I had heard the song, I just never knew that it was associated, with that. And they talked about how Billie Holiday ended every show with that song. They tried to, get her to stop singing it.
Yeah, I remember when I found out what that song meant, and it was weird. We'll have to talk about it another day, but it was someone else singing it, and then someone said, "Do you know the history of this song?" And then I was like, "Wow, okay." And that sort of like goes into me and my love of films. What is the U.S. versus Billie Holiday?
Yeah,
I didn't know that she went through all of that.
Oh, she was an interesting character because my favorite author, Dr. Angelo, lived next door to her for a while.
Wow. Well, it seems like Regina's telling us that we have to watch that Cotton Picking Truth as well. So we will be back to that. I thank y'all for being here with me. This was like,
thank you for having us.
I appreciate it. I'm gonna be down this, like, looking into this history right away. This is really, thank you for opening my eyes to a lot of things today.
So I just sent you what I heard in 2015 on Strange Fruit from WBEZ, and you can forward it to Regina, anyone who wants it. And it's from WBEZ. It's the actual 16 minutes that it talked about everything.
I'm gonna put it in the chat right now so everyone has it.
And I think the only thing they have to do is put their email in order to access it, but it's free. It doesn't cost anything.
WBEZ.
Yeah, that's the only station I listen to.
Oh, well, thank you. Look, I'm telling you, you guys are enlightening my soul every day. Thank you so much.
Oh, was this I'm looking at the documentary, The Cotton Picking Truth. Was this the one where there were Black folks in Mississippi in the 20th century who didn't realize that slavery was over?
Yeah, this was going to go, and I'm sending the other part to it. So this is the 30-minute.
Wow.
Yeah, 'cause this was like in the 1960s, right?
Mm-hmm. No, I think it was 2000. Was it 2009?
Oh, that she did. Which one? The one that they did, WBEZ did, was 2015.
Ooh. Oh, okay. We were talking about the cotton picking truth, and then we got the. So you guys, I'm gonna put the link for both.
Yeah, I'm reading the synopsis of it. Yeah, this was the one because I remember reading a story about a couple of years ago about Mississippi people didn't know that slavery was
Right.
over.
Yeah, they didn't know.
Wow.
They didn't know that history that existed in there. So they looked at trees totally different,
Wow. This is interesting. So we got WBEZ article that succeeded saying so you guys don't have to end it here. And then the cotton picking truth that Regina is recommending. Let me put that link in there.
Yes.
This is interesting. Now, this people did not know they were free.
Yeah, that's something.
Wow. Yeah, I think Amazon has a longer version as well. Thank you, y'all. I'm gonna be watching this tonight. This is interesting.
Like Gardis, you're a city person. Burgundy. You flew to South Holland.
Yeah, I sure did. I grew up on the South Side.
Yeah, Burgundy grew in the suburbs.
But I think I've been here long enough to be a
you're
Southland resident.
grandfathered in now. You're right. At this point, you're grandfathered into. I think the mayor has, done use his scepter. You're grandfathered in.
Mm-hmm.
But they had something on WBEZ, and it was a story that they did on Jane Byrne.
Mm-hmm.
And it talked about her stay in the projects. You remember when she stayed in the projects?
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, Gardis. I give her some credit because I wasn't staying. Okay, I wouldn't stay, and I said that then, and I say that now.
I had relatives that lived in Robert Taylor Homes and Cabrini Green, and I didn't want to spend the night.
Right. So she and her husband thought she was, crazy because he didn't stay there all those nights with her. He was like, I'm going back to my comfortable sleep number. He didn't say that, but this is me.
Mm-hmm.
And how she even got to know like some of the people in the neighborhood, and she planned this big parade, and she wondered why people didn't come, and she's like, you doing this, why didn't they come? Because this one guy did not give them permission to cross the street.
Wow.
Yep. And that's on WBEZ too.
Yeah, I might have to watch this.
I'm looking at it too. This is crazy, but yeah, Jane Byrne, she said, well, let me go ahead and do my thing. And
yeah, that time period, it's really interesting, that history, because she made a point of getting to know people so that she could understand the situation.
Did it help anything? Because that would be another conversation. I put that on our list. Jane Byrne down there.
I really don't think so.
Okay.
I think, I don't think so. It may have created an awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It may have built some relationships.
Okay.
But I don't think so.
Yeah, you know what, Berg? I since you have ties to the Shaw brothers, and I know they came from kind of like the Daily, the old man Daily machine. What was their position on Harold? Did they supported Harold Washington, right?
They did.
Okay. I believe so. Yeah, I think that I can remember. I think I didn't know much about Robert, but Mayor Shaw, who's Bill, he definitely did. From what I know, now, this will be a great question for Big Mike. He'll probably have an internal story.
Right.
But I remember one time, I know this is funny, but Willie, what's his name? He runs every year. He's a millionaire. Is that his name?
Oh,
Oh,
wait
Willie,
a minute. I told a
Willie
lie,
Wilson.
y'all.
Dr. Willie Wilson.
Oh,
He
yeah.
he was gonna come out here and run, and that was the first time I saw. At first, they were like, "Oh, he's not gonna run," and I remember hearing Robert say, "Oh, he's so country," and I'm like, "Wait a minute, I got to keep my job." I said, "Let me keep my job because." Aren't y'all from Arkansas? But okay, all right, you calling somebody else country that
That's funny. I
So he
told
said-
you all a lie. Shaw was seen as having been disloyal to the Black community for supporting Byrne over Washington.
When was
Uh-oh.
that?
So they didn't support Harold
They
Washington.
did.
Ahead of his city council runoff election, which coincided with the general election for the Chicago mayor election. Shaw tried to align himself as a supporter of Washington's campaign.
Well,
wait, you won? Oh, you know what, man? I knew you were going to win. See, I was really rooting for you.
Well, I mean, obviously they would have to support him in the general election,
right?
Because Bernie Epton, who was Washington's opponent.
Oh, Bernie, yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was kind of like thrown in there as
he was thrown in there.
But what was surprising was he got actually more votes than what was expected, considering this was Chicago's a Democratic city.
Because everyone was like, "Who is Bernie Epton?" I mean, when he got thrown in, I mean, sure, he was a former state representative, but
I mean, it was closer than what, like, they imagined he would.
Right.
I mean, I don't even think. Look, I think Tiffany beat the candidate she beat in the general election more than Harold beat Bernie Epton. Because what did she say?
Harold beat Bernie Epton.
Yeah,
well,
she said she
won by
80,
like 100 votes.
She won by 82. No, I'm talking about the general election. The one Tiffany keeps bragging about, talking about I won by 82% against some guy nobody knows.
Yeah, it still wasn't that percentage that she talked about, though. That still wasn't true.
Yeah. Now, this is funny because wasn't that the history with, like, some people would do that to Obama, sort of act like they supported him.
Right.
But at first they're like, he's not going to win nothing. Right. And then you have to tell me which Shaw it was succeeding. They probably didn't say if it was Robert or.
You know what? I got to go back and see, because I was looking to see how many votes Bernie got. Bernie got 47.99%.
And that's a lot for
it is
for a Democratic city.
Correct. And Harold Washington got 51.72.
And if I'm not mistaken, who was the guy that was head of the city council?
Oh, Verdoliak.
Verdoliak supported Epton, even though Verdoliak is a Democrat.
Yep, he sure. Well, remember, Verdoliak switched. Remember?
Oh yeah, he was switching like he was
switching like he was playing jump rope.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, as now that we're getting ready to vote again, I don't know if I'm a Republican, Democrat, neutral, or anything.
Right. And when you look at the map, you have to look at this. When you look at the map, the people that voted for Bernie Epton, you'll see like the blue areas, and when you see like the red areas, you can see those are predominantly very well-to-do areas that voted for him.
Oh yeah, it was mostly North Side people, and various neighborhoods on the South Side, like Mount Greenwood, Bridgeport.
Mount Greenwood, yep.
So
Mount Greenwood and the other area,
Bridgeport
near
or
95th.
Yeah, so
but those areas voted for him. But I forgot about Bernie, because he just came in and you were like, who is Bernie? Yeah, but no, it was Robert Shaw, I think. Let's see.
Yeah, Robert Shaw was the alderman.
Yeah, that's who it was. Who tried to line himself afterward.
Robert that's the one on that's smiling. Like I would say that Robert was a little more loose and opinionated. And to me, Bill, who was our mayor, he's the one with the serious face. He was more quiet and straightforward. They were very much different. They would send us over. He would be like, if you want to work at the commissioner office, and Robert was our commissioner, like if you need help, Bill would literally send us down there, and us that had clerical abilities possibly, and send us over to his office or whatever they had. I think he was losing an election, so he had a lot of people come down for him, and we'd be like, oh man, we don't want to go down there. Like, we wasn't. It's stern. But yeah, this is interesting history, the Shaw brothers. And now we're here. We'll be back next time. I appreciate you guys.
All righty.
Yes.
Thank you for all your knowledge. I appreciate y'all so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having.
Thank you.
And thank you, all you in the chat, for all of your knowledge and sharing this knowledge with us.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Bob said, have a great Memorial Day. That was a good sign off. Have a great Memorial Day, guys.
Yes, have a great Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day to y'all.
Okay,
have a great
bye-bye.
All right.
So that was Succeeding 2 and Gardis Watts. Thank you so much. Oop, I still got the shawls up here. I didn't mean that. We're going to have to look at the Cotton Picking Truth, you guys. It's the short version on YouTube. Also, I shared with Succeeding 2, told us about the strange fruit article, the WBEZ, that's in the chat as well. I appreciate y'all so much. Stephen, thanks for being here. Regina, thank you. We're going to research all the girl. We're going to have to do a whole separate live on the Cotton Picking Truth. I think that's very interesting. Lori P, thanks for being here. Thanks, everybody. This was Blueberries history today, right? Thank you, Cash Money. Thank you for being here. And you guys, we'll be back tomorrow. You enjoy the Memorial Day. Thanks to those who served. And let's make sure we keep people in remembrance, right? Thank you so much, and you take care of yourself and each other. Bye.
Commentary Blue Commentary Burgundy Commentary Comment Blue Commentary Comment Burgundy Blue